Murderer Lee Wall is facing life behind bars after he was convicted of stabbing his cousin to death after a row over it. Wall plunged a knife into the stomach of Daryl Fowler twice when a row broke out between them and their partner. Newcastle Crown Court heard Mr Fowler died on the 3rd anniversary of his dad's death following the attack in Leam Lane. Wall was found guilty of murder by a jury and was warned he faces a life sentence. He and partner Emma Brown had previously admitted perverting the course of justice after the murder, and they will be sentenced together. After the conviction, Detective Chief Inspector Graeme Dodds said, "This is a tragic case that has taken a son, brother and grandson from his family. It will see another man spend the foreseeable future in prison." All 4 individuals involved in this incident spent most of the day together before an argument over a mobile phone descended into violence. Lee Wall fatally stabbed a man he considered a friend and has shown no remorse throughout the investigation, or the subsequent. Instead, he's done everything he can to evade justice. "I welcome the verdict of the jury, and I hope that the fact Wall will spend a significant period of time in prison will bring some comfort to Mr. Fowler." Mr. Fowler was struggling to cope with the marking of his dad's death when he clashed with Lee Wall. The prosecutors said Wall, 43, of no fixed address, and Brown, 40, argued with Mr. Fowler and his fiancee, Coreena Jamieson, at Brown's home, and after jurors returned the guilty verdict on Brown, Judge Paul Sloan QC told him, "You must understand, for the offence of murder there is only one sentence, and that's a sentence of life. However, it is required by law to specify a minimum term you must serve before you could even be considered in going to adjourn sentence until March 5th. Your co-accused will be at court on that date." During the trial, Kealey QC, prosecuting, told jurors, "The Crown's case is that in the evening of Friday 11th of September 2020 an argument broke out between both men and their partners at the home of Emma Brown, the defendant's partner. The argument became violent between all 4 adults. At one point in the disturbance, the defendant stabbed him twice to the stomach, fatally injuring." He added, "In the aftermath of the attack, the defendant and Emma Brown, his partner, also attempted to mislead the police by providing false information as to the identity of those involved in the attack, claiming it had been committed by 2 unknown men who had fled the scene. They both went on to try and hide the knife used to stab Mr. Fowler by putting it down." Both the defendant and Emma Brown have pleaded guilty to the offence of doing acts tending and intended to pervert the course of justice. The court heard September 12th was a particularly poignant day for Mr. Fowler, 28, from Newcastle, as it was the anniversary of his father. Mr. Kealey said, "Every year in the lead up to this date, Mr. Fowler would, in grandmother Jennifer Miller's words, go off the. He would consume a lot of drink and take drugs." On Friday, September 11th, Mr. Fowler consumed alcohol in tablets and was in the company of Wall and their girlfriend. Mr. Fowler, who was described as very emotional, and Miss Jamieson ended up at Brown's home on Chevington, Leam Lane, with her. Mr. Kealey said, "It was whilst they were there that an argument began sometime before 8 p.m. It began, according to Miss Jamieson, between Brown and Miss Jamieson over the sale by Miss Jamieson to Brown. The argument began as a verbal dispute between the 2 women, but it developed to include Mr. Fowler, and it also developed into a physical dispute, with Brown pushing Miss Jamieson out of the front door and also biting her on the cheek. Mr. Fowler also became involved physically, kicking or punching Brown, knocking her. This occurred on a covered communal balcony outside Brown's flat. Mr. Kealey added, "Miss Jamieson noticed that as the fighting between the 2 men went on, the defendant had a knife in his right hand. Her recollection was that he had got that knife by reaching through an open window from the balcony." She described the knife as having about an 8-inch blade with a black handle, and when she first saw it, the defendant was holding it pointy. Before she was able to leave, Miss Jamieson was kicked by Lee Wall with full force to the top of her. He said he never wanted to see her ever again and told her that he didn't know where Mr. Fowler was laid out in the middle of the road very seriously.